Hey everybody, this is Derek coming to you from LuckyVitamin headquarters in the beautiful Northeast USA. It's great to have so many people joining us today for the LuckyVitamin Wellness webinar about plant protein presented by our friends at Garden of Life. Thank you all very much. Today we are joined by Amber Lynn Vietz. Amber is BA, LMT, and CN. She majored in economics with postgraduate work in medical sciences and additional certifications in bodywork, Ayurveda, and holistic nutrition. Her journey in the healing arts developed richly as she worked for years in practices with integrative physicians, acupuncturists, chiropractors, and nurses. Ultimately, she developed an integrated modality of Ayurvedic medicine, yoga, advanced bodywork, and integrative nutrition. Amber uses her 19 years of experience in integrative medical practices to educate for the consumer mindset and to distill these wisdoms into digestible information bites. In 2014, she joined the Garden of Life team as their Northeast Regional Educator to empower extraordinary health. So before we begin our journey into the world of plant-based protein, just a few quick reminders. This webinar is being recorded and will be emailed to you after its conclusion. If you have any questions during today's webinar, please enter them into the question box on your screen. Also, please stay tuned for a special offer from LuckyVitamin on Garden of Life products at the end of the webinar. All right, thank you all again for attending, and I'm going to turn this over to Amber now. Amber, take it away.
Hi there. Let me get the screen shared here, and we'll be up and running. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us today. And I'm excited to talk about proteins. I'm especially excited to talk about plant proteins because I have, I think, a unique perspective on plant proteins. And just so that you know that I have no bias one way or another, I love all food. I'm not calling myself any particular kind of avore. I'm not, vegan or vegetarian or fully carnivorous. I'm a foodie. I love food. I love to eat. I love good food. I love all kinds of cultural food, and that is my preference, really, is to eat. But the reason we supplement is because we're not getting enough of something, because it is not complete, it is not whole, and so we are adding something to make it whole, to make it balanced. And so that's really the point behind supplementing with a protein powder or supplementing with a greens powder or supplementing coenzyme Q10 or supplementing B vitamins. It is not there to replace a good diet. It is there to assist as a tool in ideally a good diet or on your way to a good diet. So a lot of people use protein powder in various forms as a tool to get them through from meal to meal, to reduce cravings, to increase their intake of good quality protein when they're on the go, to allow them to build more muscle than they would naturally because they're in a special exercise program. So there are many reasons why we might use a protein supplement. We might have greater needs for protein at certain times, like after injury or during pregnancy or in debilitation or in older age. There are many reasons why we might want excess protein. So let's start by looking at a little bit of why protein is important and what exactly it is. So there are three major macronutrients that we take in our food. Protein is one, carbohydrate is a second, and fat is the third. These are the three categories that comprise pretty much all of our food. Then your micronutrients are things like vitamins and minerals and trace minerals and polyphenols from phytonutrients. But your main components of your food are proteins, carbohydrates, fats. Water is also a macronutrient, technically speaking. So protein is one of the three that is crucial for us to live and survive as humans. We use proteins as building blocks, basically, for everything that takes place in our body, everything functional and everything structural. And I emphasize that proteins are a major part of creating enzymes, hormones, and neurotransmitters in the body, because I want you to remember that when I get a little bit further into why plant proteins are especially doubly beneficial over other kinds of proteins. I don't know who counted how many proteins the human body assembles and utilizes. I'm glad it wasn't me. That kind of counting is just not my thing. But let's just say there are a lot of proteins that not only our cells and our DNA codes for, but that even the microorganisms inside of us create using the amino acids from the proteins that we eat. If we are building or repairing tissues, building naturally in childhood, we're building tissues, right? And fetal development, we're building tissue. We're also building tissue when we're working out and trying to get stronger. We're constantly repairing our tissue when we are working out and trying to get stronger. Protein is a part of all kinds of tissues in the body, and we see that we are not either taking in enough protein or absorbing, breaking down and absorbing and assimilating enough protein when we see weaknesses and breakdown in these particular areas of our tissue. Another little known role of proteins in the body is the electrolyte balance and acid-alkaline balance. You know, contrary to what most people feel about the words acid and alkaline and various references to the body being acidic and having a higher propensity towards certain disease states and trying to aim for an alkaline body, in the bloodstream, it's a very, very, very narrow window of pH balance. You cannot step outside of that to become slightly acidic or slightly alkaline without your body responding rapidly to return you to balance. If you actually get acidic blood, you will start breathing really heavily and trying to expel CO2 from the body so that there is less acid in the blood. You will also mobilize minerals from your bone, from breaking down bone, to try to neutralize the acid in the blood. If you get slightly alkaline, you'll lie down and stop moving and stop breathing and hold your breath, basically, because your body's trying to accumulate acid to rebalance. And proteins and amino acids can come into playing a role in that. So in the bloodstream, it's really a very narrow window. Using the language of an acidic body and alkaline body is really a whole other discussion. We can say that for another time. But physiologically speaking, in the bloodstream, it stays very, very neutral, and our amino acids play a role in that, as do our minerals. So protein obviously supports our muscle mass. It also supports our metabolism, because the more lean muscle mass we have, the more we burn through our calories and through our fat and through our fat stores. And that's a really good way for people who are struggling with blood sugar regulation, for example, to regulate their blood sugars by having more lean muscle mass. How does protein lower hormone stimulation and help you keep full longer? So here's where I get into, it's not just that protein comes in your body and suddenly there's a signal that makes you feel full. It goes through multiple processes, and plant proteins especially, which come along with fibers, go through the interface of our microorganisms in our body, and those microorganisms then use some of those proteins and amino acids to make signaling molecules that say, hey, we're good, we got what we need, we're satisfied now for a while. And then your brain goes, oh, no need to crave sugar, no need to crave more food, I'm good right now. So protein, yes, does have these effects. It has these effects on appetite and staving off hunger and controlling blood sugar. But it does so, as does fiber, as do polyphenols and trace minerals from plants, through an interface. And a lot of times that interface is the microbiome, the microorganisms in our system, and the signaling molecules that they make. So it's really much more complicated, and the more that we know now about the microbiome, the more we know about how this works and how all this signaling is taking place between these organisms inside of us and our own nervous system, and thus driving our own actions, for example. This is a very important concept, that we're not just talking about protein and grams of protein, but the actual kinds of amino acids that comprise that protein and the balance of them, how much of each amino acid is present and what the ratios are. If you're missing crucial essential amino acids that your body can't make, that you have to get from your food, the only option for your body to remain balanced and make the proteins it absolutely needs to make for life itself is to break down your own tissue and scavenge those amino acids that are missing. So this is why in our overall diet it's extremely important that we actually get all of the essential amino acids that we have to get from food, all of the conditional amino acids that we can make a little bit of ourselves and need some from food, and are able to provide our body what it needs to make all of the molecules that it needs to make. Protein, for example, and all those amino acids in proper ratio are very important for proper immune functioning. When I've traveled in third world countries or developing countries or countries that have high rates of infectious disease, knowing this, I made sure that I had extremely adequate levels of protein, and I ate every source of protein that was put in front of me to make sure that I was fueled for my own immune system to function and defend itself. It is the lack of adequate protein and the proper ratios of amino acids in a lot of impoverished areas of developing countries that causes them to be more susceptible to infectious diseases, for example. So if you've got Southeast Asia and poor that are really subsisting on white rice and little else, white rice is not a complete protein. It doesn't have all of the ratios of all the amino acids you need, so they're lacking something, and so there's not enough raw material there for their bodies to mount an immune response, and they're more susceptible to infectious disease or any kind of an acute situation that the immune system is not able to fight off. So it's crucial in those situations. So what breaks proteins down in our body into those amino acids? Well, hydrochloric acid in the stomach is extremely crucial in this process. And maybe you've heard about people having, too high or too low. A lot of times people are told that they have too much acid. It's just really that the acid's in the wrong place. A lot more people have too little acid to break down their proteins properly. This is why we bring in enzymes called proteases. We add these as supplements for people who seem to not be able to break down their protein well, and that shows up in the fact that maybe their hair is not good quality, their nails are not good quality, their skins are not good quality, they're not able to develop good muscle, they're tired, maybe many signs that they're not breaking down and assimilating their proteins as well as they would like to. So it's these amino acids, and especially what's generally recognized as the 9 that are essential for human nutrition that we have to get from food. Essential means we got to get them from food. So some of those are immediately used in the GI tract by our own tissues and also by microbes. Microbial cells are also using those amino acids to make their own hormones, neurotransmitters, and enzymes that happen to benefit our health as well, ideally, in the case of probiotics, those microbes that are good for our health. Others get into the system, are going into general circulation and recycled and used where needed. And there are certain kinds of amino acids called branched-chain amino acids that actually don't have to go through the liver, that can go directly into use in the muscle. And those are ones that are prized by those who are working out and trying to build muscle or build power and strength for athleticism. So of these 9 essential amino acids that a human must consume in their food in adequate amounts and ratios, there are 3 that are called branched chain amino acids. And you've probably seen this. You've seen it called out on the side of a protein supplement. This product has 3 grams. This product has 3.4. This product has 6 grams branched chain amino acids. So in plant proteins, just like in whey protein or egg protein, there are naturally occurring branched chain amino acids, and most products will call out exactly how much. For those of you who are interested in a higher level of branched chain amino acids, because you're taking your protein supplement right before a workout and you want that energy and those amino acids available for building strength and power, or right after the workout for faster recovery and less post-workout muscle soreness. So when we're looking at our options for supplementation of proteins, we're looking at the animal proteins and the plant proteins. And plant proteins go way back, and so do animal proteins. If you remember back 20, 30, 40 years ago, we've been using soy as a source of plant protein for a really long time, which is one of those things that just sort of baffles me, as does peanut butter, because, you know, soy and peanuts are both legumes. They're beans, and beans just aren't something that you can just dry or roast and grind up and eat. It isn't the best way to get nutrition out of them. And so it's just odd and funny that that's what we sort of decided to do when there are thousands of years of experience in human life where they never did it that way. You know, if they had a legume, they knew to soak it, they knew to sprout it or ferment it to get optimum nutrition out of it, or else they just didn't really survive very long. So the question between protein and animal protein is which one is actually more sustainable over the long term. So when we look at animal proteins, we have some of these concerns. And you can certainly see when you look at your options for whey or egg protein, collagen, gelatin, that very few are actually labeled organic. Even fewer are labeled grass-fed. And you can just hope that at least there's no hormones or antibiotics in the original milk or egg or you know, whatever the source of this animal protein is, the bones of the animal. So the other issue with animal-derived proteins is that they do have to go through pasteurization. You cannot have a raw standard for animal proteins, and that can denature the proteins. The amino acids are still available. The amino acids are always still available, but you won't be getting any additional benefit other than those amino acids from an animal protein that has been heat pasteurized to the point where there's none of the immunoglobulins or other immune-supporting molecules present that might be present in cow's milk or whey if you got it fresh off the farm. The other thing is in cheese making or yogurt making on a small farm that is organic, that is grass-fed, that is sustainable. Typically, once they make the cheese or make the yogurt and the whey runs off, it's recaptured and fed back to the herd. And all those nutrients go within just a few hours of milking back into the herd as a supplement. So if a farm is selling off at a premium price their grass-fed organic whey, what are they purchasing to supplement the herd? You know, so that was kind of a question of sustainability for me, and it's product by product, company by company, farm by farm. So it's one of those things you just have to explore if you're interested in that and you're choosing an animal protein. It is definitely harder to get clean protein when you're starting with animals that have been fed or grazed on food that also needs to be organic and non-GMO project verified. So it's just a longer supply chain. But then when you go to plant proteins, we do still have some of the same concerns because plants, vegetables are supposed to be good for us, right? But they are grown with herbicides, insecticides, fungicides. Brown rice and pea are not genetically modified crops. Soy definitely is. At least 89, I think it's like 93% of our soy in the world now is genetically modified seed. So it's nearly unavoidable, practically unavoidable. When it comes to rice and pea, these are not genetically modified crops. However, if they are not organically grown, not only may they be sprayed with plenty of herbicides and insecticides during the growth process, they are also still likely to be sprayed with glyphosate, which is the main ingredient of Roundup anyway, because glyphosate is used not just as an herbicide, but also as a ripening agent and a desiccant. So it brings the seed heads to ripeness faster and dries them out faster so that harvest can be quicker so that it can get to processing faster. And then they may also be sprayed with fungicides during that drying process to avoid mold growth because they're harvested green as opposed to drying in the field or on the vine. So you've got all the pesticides that may be used during the growth. You have the drying agents and desiccants. You have the fungicides. And then in the processing itself, there's no restriction on what solvents can be used to separate the protein from the other macronutrients to make a final protein powder. So you really don't know what you're getting if it's not labeled organic and non-GMO project verified unless you have a very close, tight relationship with the farms that are supplying the product of choice, the product that you choose. So just for ease, for consumer ease, for ease of understanding what goes into a product, having these seals is extremely important. We know when we see the USDA organic seal that you will have no synthetic pesticides, no genetically modified feed, no usage of hormones, of antibiotics, that there's an effort to make the environment better than when you started overall with the organic movement. With non-GMO project verification, there's actual one step further in that high-risk ingredients are tested. So if there were a protein supplement product that contained a typically genetically modified ingredient like soy, then that product will be tested for the presence of genetically modified DNA, as well as a rigorous audit of all materials that go into making that product. So it's not redundant. It's an additional step and a deeper investigation for the non-GMO project verification. So I'm going to go through the certifications that we have on our plant protein products to show you how much auditing and investigation takes place to make these truly the most transparent and traceable products in the market, because we're really looking at every step of the way redundantly over and over again from different organizations at how things are grown, what seed stock is used, how they're harvested, how they're processed, and how they go to manufacture. So USDA Organic, this seal comes only once your product, the facilities, the fields have been reviewed and certified by an independent certifier, of which there are over 120. We use 3 different ones depending upon which farm we're talking about, which manufacturing facility, what product, what raw material it is, and where it's coming from. And then non-GMO project verification, as I said, is a separate chain of audit. An area that we've had to really work with non-GMO project on is enzymes, and developing a list and a supply chain for a full spectrum of digestive enzymes that we can use in our products that are all tested and audited and determined to be non-genetically modified completely. Enzymes are an area that has been, not touched by the non-GMO project until recently. Vegan certification, again, a third party that's looking at the materials and the manufacturing and formulas and ensuring that they meet vegan certification status. Gluten-free certification, because these plant proteins are not in a majority containing raw materials that would normally contain gluten. They can be gluten-free certified by GFCO, and all ingredients have to contain less than 10 parts per million of gluten. So this is a seal that you'll see on all of our plant proteins. Kosher certification, again, another auditing body being in the facilities and present for all of the processing. NSF is like, I call NSF the Cato to our Inspector Clouseau. So if you were a Pink Panther fan back in the day with Peter Sellers playing Inspector Clouseau, the bumbling French detective who is way more impressed with himself than we might be with him, every time he came home, he had a manservant that he had hired not only to shine his shoes, press his suit, and bring him tea, but also who was highly trained in martial arts to ambush him and attack him. So every time he came home and opened his door, he was attacked by Cato. Why? Because he wanted to keep his skills sharp. So this is what NSF is for us. They do the same kind of audits that the FDA would do twice a year if they make it to a facility twice a year, or a farm or a manufacturer, to ensure that all of the good manufacturing procedures are being executed and met, or that we're going above and beyond the call of duty. So NSF comes an additional 2 to 4 times per year, surprised. No, they come as they choose. There is no warning. We're coming today. We'll see you in just a couple hours. We'll be there. So it's a surprise audit that puts us through our paces in the same way that the FDA should, to keep us on our toes so that all year long we're actually meeting and exceeding our good manufacturing practices that we laid down in our records as we decided to make these products. So that makes these extremely inspected, audited, transparent, and traceable to the seed. These plant proteins I'm going to share with you are among our 92 products that are traceable to the seed that have all these verifications and certifications. So that brings us to choosing a protein that's right for you. How do you know which one you're going to want to use? What's right for your lifestyle? So let's go a little bit through some of the requirements for protein and then some of the options that are out there. So this is a typical calculation that if you take your body weight in pounds and multiply it by 0.36, you'll come up with a gram amount that would be an average amount that might be suitable for you per day. And then if you're an athlete, it's a little bit more work. You have to kind of figure out exactly where you fall in that spectrum of being an athlete or in the spectrum of your physical activity to determine how much more protein you need. If you're healing from something, you have a back injury or you've been sick, if you are pregnant, if you're nursing, there may be higher requirements as well. It's a very individualized thing. This is something you can easily look up online. That's where it came from. These are the probably WHO requirements for adult requirements for protein, or Council for Responsible Nutrition. So of the protein products that we carry with Garden of Life, raw protein is our first. I think it came out with it in 2012. It has been a #1 seller because it's been clean, because it's been diverse in its source of proteins, and because it's provided a very good amino acid profile. So here's the thing about plants. We get our proteins from plants from seeds. And by seeds, I mean nuts, seeds, grains, and legumes are all storage proteins. They are seeds that if you drop them somewhere in the ground or soak them a little bit first and drop them in the ground, they can sprout and become a plant and proliferate. And so a seed doesn't have any kind of defense mechanism to protect it from being eaten, right? So its defense mechanism is to not be digested. So if you eat a grain, nut, seed, or legume, if you didn't chew it real well, the likelihood that it will come out the other end and be sproutable is pretty high. And that's what these seeds are depending upon. And that's what birds do. They gulp down berries and they gulp down grains and they fly off and then they excrete it somewhere over another field, and 3 miles away, that plant is now proliferating and growing in another part of the world. So that's what seeds want to do. So they have components that are anti-nutritional, that do not release their nutrition, that do not unpack their protein and unpack their micronutrients until they are actually in sprouting mode. So we do this evil thing. We trick them into thinking that they're going to grow. And we do that by soaking them and then putting them in a condition where they start to sprout and release their energy, release their protein, and release their nutrients. And so soaking, sprouting, and then ultimately even fermenting is another way to get around these anti-nutritional factors like lectins and phytates and have them not be in the way of either digestion or of you accessing the nutrients from these plant proteins. And that's a necessary aspect of creating a good quality plant protein. It doesn't only have to be clean in how it is grown and harvested, but then the only option really for processing is water. So it's soaking, has to be soaking. It can be sprouting. It can also be fermenting beyond that. And so when you are not choosing an organic protein, the likelihood that solvents have been used is higher, and that doesn't create as nutritionally available product as a water processed product. So raw protein is sprouted. Raw protein comes from 13 sprouted grain, seeds, and legumes, the predominant one being sprouted brown rice protein. When we came out with this product, we were looking to really lure people over from the whey products, and so we added from our vitamin code line the Grow Company nutrients A, D, E, and K to be the fat-soluble vitamins that would be present in animal products as well to round out the formula. So there are obviously multiple flavors available in the raw protein line. This second one is completely unflavored and unsweetened, and then you have chocolate, vanilla, and vanilla spiced chai. So there are options for the sweet tooth, the chocolate lover, the person who wants to use it as a base for their own smoothie, which is commonly what people do with raw protein. Because of the sprouts, it's a little bit gritty, so it does better in a smoothie as a base. So raw protein relies upon the sprouting process to release all of these nutrients from a whole grain, from a seed, from a legume. And it is nut-free. There are no nuts in this, just the seeds, grains, and legumes. And the idea for us always is to get a complete amino acid profile with a balanced ratio of amino acids for use in the body, because plant proteins tend to be higher in things like lysine and arginine and lower in things like methionine and cysteine, the sulfur-containing acids. They tend to be higher in glycine a lot of times, which is great because we need glycine, for example, for our joints and for making glutathione in the body. So when we sprout, as I said, you make the nutrients much more available. It increases the enzyme content. You've deactivated the enzyme inhibitors by soaking and further by sprouting, and you reduce these anti-nutritional factors. So what we can say about raw protein and the usefulness of it, we can actually say about all of our protein lines in our Garden of Life offerings. So it's a plant protein. So it's good in all these situations. This particular one does contain 3.8 grams of those branched chain amino acids I spoke of earlier that go right to work in the muscle without having to be processed through the liver first. So that's the leucine, isoleucine, and valine. So increasing protein content or intake through the day, being easily digested, being suitable for vegetarians, being suitable for those with milk and other protein allergies, and as a great alternative to these other offerings. That's something we can say about all of our clean proteins. So as we move from raw protein into organic plant protein, the reason we made this line was because some people felt that raw protein was a bit gritty, and some people just wouldn't use it for that reason. So we have a lot of people, obviously, because it's the #1 seller, who love raw protein. And then we have a lot of people that we had not really introduced to clean Garden of Life proteins yet because they were looking for a different texture or a different flavor profile. So the other thing is that we resisted for years using PEAE, yellow pea protein, because most of it was not organic. And it's grown, there's like 5 million acres worldwide of pea protein. And pea starch is actually used probably more than pea protein. And early pea protein processing yielded very little protein in the total powder, like 15, 20, 30%. And it tasted very much like Campbell's split pea soup. So it didn't go in a chocolate protein bar very well. But as the time went on and as more farmers planted organic and as the water processing got better and the centrifugation equipment got better at separating starch and protein, and the breeding techniques got better for flavor and texture of yellow pea, then we were able to use pea in a product and have it be clean, have it be water processed, have it be free of anti-nutritional factors, and give us the nutrition that we wanted and be a new supply chain. And so the great thing about organic plant protein is that the pea protein in here, the yellow pea protein, is coming from North America. We now have pea suppliers for organic pea, of which there are only 20,000 acres relative to 5 million worldwide of conventional pea. There are only 20 million acres of organic pea in North America, 20,000 acres, excuse me, of organic pea in North America, and it costs at least 3 times as much as conventional because it has to be dried on the vine in the field. It cannot be sprayed with fungicides. You cannot use glyphosate. You cannot use any herbicides, insecticides, fungicides. You cannot process it with solvents. It has to be water processed. So it is a clean product, and it takes a lot more care to make it that way. So organic plant protein, I came to love it. We made it as kind of a vegan paleo protein, which to me was kind of a funny thing to say, but it works. I do know vegan paleos, actually, who do really well. I actually know paleos. I actually know vegans who keep themselves in ketosis. It's possible, but not that common. But this provides a tool for people who eat vegetarian, eat vegan, or even those who don't and just need more access to plants. And it comes from 7 sources that are very unusual, things that we don't typically get our proteins from or eat a lot of. So yellow pea and pumpkin seed, flax and chia seed, cranberry seed, moringa, and baobab. So 7 ingredients that are pretty unusual in most people's diets that you don't really get a lot of. So this can be really good for someone with a more sensitive system or some food sensitivities, who's maybe overdone the rice or the grain thing, too much quinoa, too much amaranth, too much sesame seed, who knows, and you're trying to work with some protein sources that you haven't worked with before. So in 15 grams of protein per scoop, organic plant protein offers 3 grams of those branched chain amino acids that go right to work in the muscle. And we'd like to let you know that so that if you are working out and trying to get more branched chain amino acids to build muscle, you know what you're getting without having to use your brain and add up those particular amino acids off the amino acid profile chart. So as I said, these for organic pea have to dry in the pod, in the field. They're not harvested until the field looks like this. When they look like this, the proteins are completely concentrated in these seeds, right? As opposed to a green pea, which is very sugary and starchy. You know, you've eaten them on your plate and chased them around your plate. They're sweet. They're like candy. This is not. It doesn't have the sugars. The sugars are mostly gone already, and those that aren't gone will be removed in the centrifugation process. So you get a little bit of fiber left over in the pea protein powder and about 80% protein once that's water processed. So as I said, we do not involve China in our pea protein at all. Everything is domestically grown in the U.S. and in Canada, and that makes it quite a lot more expensive. But it's worth it because this is our health we're talking about, and you actually use a lot of pea concentrated to get that amount of protein in a scoop. So the 15 grams of protein that are in the organic plant protein make it a really good family choice. It's good for all ages. It is smooth and creamy. It's easy in a shaker cup with water or almond milk or coconut milk, and out the door you go. It doesn't really have to be combined with any kind of, smoothie makings. You can do that. Absolutely. In fact, we have an unflavored, unsweetened version with no stevia in it that makes a great base for anything else you would want to add to it. As for the other flavors, do not add a banana. I caution you. If you add a banana to the vanilla, the chocolate, the yerba mate, the coffee flavor, it's just going to be over the top, and you're going to be really upset with me. It's just too sweet. These are designed to have an on-the-go flavor profile that is already sweet enough, and for some people it's even too sweet, but this is for kind of your mainstream flavor profile that likes a smoothie to taste like a shake. And you can even make it, you can add more to it by adding some greens to it. If you're looking for more of a meal, you can add even some fat to it, like a quarter of an avocado or some coconut oil, or you can shake it up in coconut cream, which I have done before, which is absolutely delicious. And so then we developed raw protein and greens, which is kind of a hybrid of raw protein and organic plant protein, plus some of the vegetables that we're coveting and that we all need more of. So but this is great because what we're talking about right now is plant protein, which means we're already in the category of plants, so we're already doing better at our vegetable intake, right? So organic plant protein has multiple sources of proteins, mostly the organic pea and organic sprouted brown rice, but also chia, navy, lentil, and garbanzo beans sprouted. Additionally, most of the green in here is coming from organic alfalfa grass juice powder, and then there's some spinach, some kale, broccoli, carrot, and beet. So it's slightly green enough that we are, excited about the chlorophyll, excited about the detoxification and the phytonutrients that come from these green products. But we are also, what we're looking to do is supplement our vegetable intake for the day. But I'm going to tell you, please do not take any of our supplements and assume that you got your vegetables. It's not the same thing as eating a vegetable. When you have vegetable juice or vegetable powders or grass juice powders, you do not have the same amount of fiber that you get when you actually eat vegetables. So please also eat your vegetables, but use these plant proteins as an augmentation and a supplement to your diet to up your total intake of plant nutrients. So again, with raw protein and greens, we're looking to have a balanced amino acid profile. We are looking to have a high level of branched chain amino acids. There's 20 grams of protein per scoop, and of those 20 grams, 3.6 are the branched chain. The leucine, isoleucine, and the valine listed here. So this one has been a real winner. Everyone loves the taste of it. You know, we've got all of these farmers we've been working with for 15, 16 years that are providing ingredients in this. All of our vegetable and vegetable juice powders and fruit powders that we get for any of our products come from this family, the Van Drunen family, and their organic farms and their processing facility called Futureceuticals. The alfalfa juice powder comes from Elon LeBaron, his farms in Utah, his whole family, and all the cereal grasses that they grow and juice and dry for us, everything that we use cereal grass juices for. So raw protein in greens, a lot like organic plant protein, has this lovely micronutrient profile. When I see manganese and molybdenum, selenium, zinc, when I see these things in a plant protein, I know that there are phytonutrients in there. I know there are polyphenols because that's how those things get into these plants, is in those antioxidant compounds that plants create. And that makes this do double duty for me. Not only am I getting the amino acids I need, I'm actually feeding my microbiome. I'm feeding my microorganisms with polyphenols, and then they're going to, in turn, turn around and make great substances that are beneficial for my body. Microbes love molybdenum. They need it in the soil. Nitrogen-fixing plants like pea need molybdenum in the soil for the microbes to actually fix nitrogen. Bacteria in our body also use molybdenum in enzymatic processes, so it's a very crucial micronutrient for various enzymatic activities in the body. So in the raw protein and greens, you have a vanilla that's stevia sweetened, chocolate that is stevia sweetened, and in addition, a no stevia, slightly sweetened with organic raw cane sugar, and you wind up with 6 grams of sugar that come entirely from the organic raw cane sugar. This is my favorite one. I just love the way it tastes, and if I want it a little bit sweeter, I can add something to it. I can go, you know, add some more cacao powder. I can add some Perfect Food raw cacao and add more greens to it if I want to. So it gives me all those options. This is probably my favorite one of the protein and greens. And then our raw meal is a meal replacement. And I'm going to go through this kind of quickly, but as a meal replacement, you can expect to use it as a meal, which means that it's a great tool if you're on the go, don't have time to eat, are working on a weight loss or detoxification program where it's just hard for you to cook a meal that's organic, non-GMO, and contains all of the proteins and all of the vitamins and minerals and greens and fibers and everything that you need for your day. So the idea is that in each scoop, you get 20 grams of protein. To be a meal, we recommend that you take 1.5 to 2 scoops. You've got 44 superfoods. And you have all the protein, fiber, greens, and vitamins and minerals and probiotics and enzymes that you need. And the great thing about meal, raw protein, protein and greens, organic plant protein, and raw fit, which I'm going to talk about next, is that they have all these certifications. They've been examined at every step of the way, including for sport. So if you are an athlete and you are tested regularly before competitions, you know that this has been vetted and tested for the presence of chemicals that could show up in a test and indicate that you might have been doping, which you haven't, but if you've taken certain herbals, sometimes they show up that way. So we kept the sugar low in raw organic meal. We took away our original formulation that had brown rice syrup solids in it because too many people are suffering from sugar imbalances. And we went ahead with using stevia as the main sweetening component of this, always organic, always high quality, always processed in a way that is compliant with USDA organic, meaning no crazy nasty solvents. And that's really, really, really important. Plus you get all of these vitamins and minerals that really up your total nutrient intake for the day. It's easy. This has been formulated to have a texture and flavor now that is awesome in just water or coconut milk, almond milk, coconut cream. Make your choice. If I'm around a blender, I'm going to throw in some avocado to that because I want those fats as well to make it a meal to last me 4 or 5 hours. Also have all 13 non-GMO project verified digestive enzymes, also present in organic plant protein, also present in protein and greens. So this is a great product for families, anybody who's busy, anybody who's working out hard, anybody who needs a real meal that's organic for under $5 per serving on the go. And that's the 2 scoops. So it's a really good deal when you think about it that way. If you were going to grab fast food at Panera, or if you were going to grab a raw meal shake, decide which one's going to give you the best nutrients and be clean. Raw Fit is probably my favorite product that we have. It's actually the one that made me really look at joining Garden of Life, because it was the first time I saw like how this is like a medical food out there. It's something that really is a tool to help people fight their cravings. If you're trying to lose weight, how are you going to do it? By controlling your cravings, controlling your hunger, and making better food choices over the long term. So Raw Fit really helps with that because it has a sprouted protein base. It has your vitamins A, C, D, E, and K, very crucial, added chromium for blood sugar management, 400 milligrams of green coffee bean extract, 300 milligrams of ashwagandha. Both of those are the clinically researched amount for, in the case of green coffee bean, weight loss. In the case of ashwagandha, stress management. You manage your stress, you manage your cortisol levels, you manage your blood sugar levels, you manage what you eat. Who is a stress eater? A lot of us. You manage your stress, you manage your food choices. Additionally, there's some baobab fruit, cinnamon, alfalfa, and daikon radish, which also help with managing the blood sugar. That's the main goal of this product. So I don't care if you're super skinny or if you're trying to lose weight, Raw Fit helps you manage blood sugar because it's high protein, 28 grams per scoop, has the chromium, the cinnamon, all these other ingredients, plus the ashwagandha and green coffee bean. And we have it in vanilla and chocolate, as well as coffee flavor and the original sort of natural flavor, which is a bit like apple cinnamon. You can look up green coffee bean. There are plenty of research papers on this Fetzel green coffee bean extract. Chlorogenic acid is a part of green coffee bean. There's no caffeine in it. It's decaffeinated, but it's 50% chlorogenic acid, which is a polyphenol. Who likes polyphenols? Our microbes like polyphenols. What do they do when they get it? They change the signaling that they put out to the body, which changes the way the body reacts and the way the body metabolizes things. Ashwagandha, again, plenty of research on ashwagandha and stress management. Encourage you to look into it. It is, bar none, my favorite herb out there. The baobab fruit, an amazing thing. We use baobab in a lot of areas, a lot of our products, because it's such an antioxidant and fiber and micronutrient rich plant. And it's grown in areas where we get it, where it is abundant and sustainable, and it provides a income and a livelihood for villages in those areas. So I love Raw Fit for all those reasons. It is definitely the product that brought me to Garden of Life, and I use it myself and recommend it to so many people even before I joined Garden of Life. So these are your choices currently in the protein line with Garden of Life. Every single one of them clean, single one of them traceable to the seed, full of micronutrients because of the way they're grown and the plant ingredients that are in there, doing a double duty for your body, providing you with the amino acids you need, as well as providing nutrients to your microbiome and the microorganisms within you that help to balance your health and support optimum health in your body. So this is kind of my, I don't know if that's okay for me to have that up there, but this is kind of where I come in when it comes to protein supplements, is that I'm all down for plants. I think we all need more plants. I hope that today I explained to you why we all need more plants, and that there are great options out there in the supplement category to get proteins from plants and up your total plant intake and the benefits from that. Thank you so much for your time. I'm totally open to taking some questions now. Eric?
Hey, Amber, thanks so much for all that information. We only have time for a couple questions, so I'm going to sort of go through and pick out ones that I think may not have been addressed in your presentation. So first one is actually one I hear about from a lot of people. It's how many grams of protein can the human body digest actually in one dose?
That's a great question. I've researched it a lot, and what I've come down to is that no matter what you're doing or how huge you are, it's really right at 20 grams per sitting, so per digestive process, which is 1 to 2 hours. So we empty our stomach in about 2 hours. Some people a little faster, some people a little slower. And really, as far as utilizing the amount of protein you take in, it's 20 grams. That doesn't mean that you won't eventually get around to 40 grams or 50 grams. It's just that you won't use it until hours later. So as far as what you're going to use right now and what's not going to tax your body or, be working way further down in your digestive system, it's 20 grams. And that's why we kind of stay within that range of 15 to 22 grams per scoop. But when you want something to hold you over for 4, 5, 6 hours, like raw meal, then you go up higher, just like a meal that you would have usually more than 20 grams of protein. If you have a steak dinner, with some big salad or some broccoli on the side and a little truffle butter on top, because I'm a foodie, then you're definitely going to get more than 20 grams of protein. And then what does your body do? It says, I'm not hungry. Please do not feed me for hours, right? And your body sort of works on that all night long. And so really that's, in my research, from what I understand, utilizing in 1 to 2 hours, having it go to your muscles and be metabolized 20 grams.
All righty, thank you. So we had someone ask a question during the webinar. I'll sort of paraphrase it here. What are the dangers of human consumption of GMOs?
Well, that is highly debatable. I'm sure you know that there's a lot of valid research on both sides of that equation. So I would say the jury is still out about consuming food that is grown from genetically modified seeds. Okay? I know my beliefs. I know that it just doesn't make sense to me to play with nature in that way. And there are a lot of what-if scenarios. There are a lot of researchers that have put their life's work on the line to get the information out there about what they saw in the animal studies that they did, feeding animals genetically modified food versus those that were fed not genetically modified food. That's been done for years, since way prior to 1996 when we first came out with these. As for human studies, there are, over the years, plenty of physicians that have ascribed to putting people on GMO-free diets for the purposes of mitigating all kinds of chronic degenerative diseases, not the least of which is gastrointestinal problems and allergies and asthma and the like. So, it's a very hot topic. It's a very hot question. I would say that even if you're not sure about what consuming them does to your body, you should look at what farming them does to the environment and what that does to your body, because genetically modified crops have bred resistant weeds and resistant pests, because using the same ingredients, Roundup, over and over and over again has caused weeds to proliferate that there is nothing to kill, and now if we have to go to something stronger, now they want to make 2,4-D resistant crops because it's stronger, it's a new formulation. The same is true with the Bt toxin that is in insecticide-producing crops. Not all insects are susceptible to that anymore, and so then in addition to having a genetically modified crop, now a lot of countries like India, Indonesia have had to go to using extremely toxic insecticides to kill the bugs that are resistant to that Bt toxin. So it just begets a worse and a worse situation. But as bad as that is the fact that if you are having a non-genetically modified crop, soy that is non-genetically modified, or rice or pea or whatever, and it's not organic, then they're really spraying the heck out of it with a whole host of other things because they're not modified to be resistant, for example, to those insects. And so now they have to spray them with a ton of insecticides. So a non-organic crop that is not genetically modified gets even more toxins on it. So you really have to look at both of those fields, non-GMO project and USDA organic.
All right, thanks. Okay, so we have time for one more question, so I'm going to go with this one. Will plant-based protein help with feeling tired and mental fatigue?
Well, hopefully, gosh darn it, that can be one of the reasons why people are run down. I know, in my experience as a kid, I always felt what we determined was hypoglycemic, except I actually rarely had low blood sugar. So it was kind of like, what was my total protein intake per meal? Was I spreading it out throughout the day? Was I getting what I needed? Was it adequate? You know, kids and teenagers, this is always an issue. And so, yes, I would give it a try. It's one of the most fundamental things you could do is get yourself the right kind of nutrition and make sure that you have easily digestible nutrients available to your body. If you are fatigued, if you're feeling weakened, protein can definitely be a part of it. There can be a lot of other things going on as well, but it's probably the safest thing to try and see if that helps you out. And then you just have to look at your overall food intake. You know, whenever people ask me if something's going to help them, I really have to say, well, tell me about the rest of your diet, and I'll tell you if this is what you need. When it comes to plant proteins, if you're a carnivore and you eat a lot of meat, but you want extra protein, then you should really get a plant protein, because you certainly don't need more animal protein in your diet. And if you're a vegetarian and you kind of do some dairy and some eggs, you know, you kind of have a choice there, and you have to look at your total diet and see which one is right for you and which one you digest better. And if you're a vegan, obviously plant proteins are what you're going to take. But we all need more plants. And if we get plant proteins that are clean and that include all these phytonutrients and polyphenols, as is demonstrated by the nutrient facts panel, which shows a lot of micronutrients and trace minerals, then we know that we're affecting our overall health through our microbiome as well as through providing amino acids to our body. And that, all in all, a lot of us are missing micronutrients. A lot of us are missing trace minerals, and we don't realize it. Processed food does not contain any of that, and it's not added back. And so just getting foods with trace minerals in them can up your energy levels tremendously, because it makes those nutrients available for your metabolic enzymatic processes that produce energy for you in your body. So I would definitely be trying a plant protein, just because you get more bang for your buck. You get more benefits than just the amino acids themselves. Thanks, Derek.
Thank you, Amber. Okay, so we're going to wrap this up now. Thank you all again for attending, and another big thank you to Amber for all of the information and all of her time. Please remember that this webinar will be emailed out, so please go over it again and reabsorb some of that information. So you can also find it by visiting LuckyVitamin.com and search keyword webinar. Check out all of the other cool webinars that are there while you're there. We have a lot in our archives, and we have a lot coming up as well. Please see your screen for a special offer. Everybody have a great day, and don't forget to spread the wellness.